Hello, everybody. My name is DP Rises, and yes, I've made a video for Omelette. Hopefully, it's going to Omelette. Last time I said that, it didn't go to Omelette, it went to YouTube. So, hopefully, it'll actually go this time. And today, we're talking about an individual known as Taffy. You might recognize her from a post I made in Meowchew that I later deleted. So, let's go ahead and get into this. So, I came back from school, and I get a message from Overdose. And he's telling me that Taffy said you can't be racist to white people. So I was like, okay, no, there's no way she said something like that. That would just be dumb to say. So I go into the messages and I go to the very top. First thing I see is her talking about how Trump's terrible and all this, which I don't care what you think. Think what you want about him. Do not fucking care. I'm not trying to get political here. I'm trying to stay away from politics for right now. Even though you could technically say I'm talking about a political issue, but I don't consider it one. So, she also talks about how America's so bad. Yeah. America's so bad that literally everybody wants to move to America. So bad. You know, the Filipino people, however you say that name. I'm fucking retarded. People from the Philippines. People from China. People from just any fucking place on the planet. All want to move here because it's just that bad. So then we get into the juicy bit. White people can't experience racism nor police brutality because they aren't oppressed. So this is going to be the main topic of today's video, and how white people can experience racism, and police brutality can affect white people. Let's first start with the easy one, police brutality. I don't really think I have to make this point here, but everybody suffers from police brutality. I mean, there was a case of a white guy getting shot for a noise complaint. You know, he had a noise complaint. Police officer showed up, and he grabbed his gun, you know, just for protection purposes. Sees the cop outside, goes to place down the gun, and cop opens fire. Another guy, he was being given directions on what to do for the arrest, and was following the very poor instructions, and the fucking cop just unloads on him. Both white people, by the way. Phil, I need to clarify that one. Both white people, because everyone suffers from police brutality. This isn't a mainly black thing, or mainly Asian thing, or mainly Native American thing. This is an all people thing, because cops aren't actually racist. They're just very power hungry and fucks. I'm not saying none of them are racist. I'm just saying 9 times out of 10 it isn't a racism thing. Just 9 times out of 10, police don't really fucking care and like being assholes. I know that's a crazy resolution to come to. I wonder how I got to such a resolution. Oh, because everyone runs into dick police. And, I mean, everyone's dealt with one once in a while. And, it had nothing to do with you being white, usually. This is fucking dumb. The fact that I'm even making this point to any human being on the fucking planet is honestly amazing. Now, next, white people, how they can experience racism. Well, this is an easy one to talk about because, definition of racism, right there. It just says, here, let me actually pull this up. Straight out of Google, in fact. Prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism, you get the point. Discrimination, prejudice, stuff like that, directed against a person or people on the basis of their membership of a particular race, racial, or ethnicality group. Typically, one that is minority or marginalized. That is the definition straight out of Google. Pretty much saying that, newsflash, everyone can experience racism. But as Google lists here, it's usually pointed at minorities and marginalized groups, which that is pretty much the case. I'm not trying to sit here and say black people don't experience racism. What I am saying is everybody experiences it. It's not just a strictly black thing or a strictly Asian thing. Everyone can experience it. Can people experience it on different levels? Of course they can. You know, if you're white and go to Africa, you're probably going to more than likely experience more racism than any of the black people there. If you're black and come to any white dominated area, you're probably more likely to experience racism than the white people. Or if you're black and go to an Asian country, you're probably more likely to experience racism. And for white people going to an Asian country too. And then Asian people going to a white or black country. That's just how it goes. When you're going to a minority race country and you're of a different race, you're going to run into those occasional racist people. That just happens everywhere. And that's the whole cycle. White people get it, then black people get it, then Asian people get it. And it's just this whole fucked cycle. And Native Americans and Hispanics. You get my point. So it's just annoying that people would say, like, white people can't experience it, because they totally can. And it isn't, and you can't make the, well, they're not oppressed argument, because racism can be performed in different ways, many different ways. It can be as simple as, it can be on, like, a level of just you insulting someone based off their skin color. That would be racist. Or it can be on an oppression level. There's different ways it can be performed. This is the way I kind of put it. The ways of what I know are individual racism, where it's just a simple racist comment to another, which would only harm that person. Or I guess that individual comment can be pointed at a group of people. So then that only affects that group of people. And then when you had the systemic one, which more lies with government racism and all that. So, like, take for instance when slavery was legal and all that, back in 18 whatever. I'm not good with history years. I know my great deal of history. It's just the years. I'm not good with that. You back in those times when slavery was okay, and then even after slavery was outlawed, to like segregation and all that, that was systemic racism and oppression to black individuals. Now, you could technically argue slavery was more pointed at just necessarily the poorer nations, with how they had Irish slaves, Asian slaves, I think native ones. I just know there was Irish and black. Was there native ones? I can't remember. I can't remember. History is just so fucked to look through. But you could necessarily make the argument that, like, it wasn't necessarily a racist act. It's a bit debatable. I'm not saying no slave owners were racist, because there probably were racist ones, more than likely. Yes. It's kind of debatable when you throw into the equation the, like, Irish slaves and the tons of other race of people that were enslaved. You just kind of get to that point where it's like, well, was it really a racist act, or just them picking on the poorer nations? And then you factor in the fact that Africa was even selling their own people. They were going to the weaker tribes of their people and selling them off. But since they're separated by tribes, they didn't see it as selling their own people, so they would sell them off. It just kind of gets into this thing where it's like, is it really racism, or is it just picking on the poorer nation? But I will go on the safe route and say yes, it still counts as racism, because a large majority of the white owners who owned their black slaves were because they viewed themselves as better than the black slaves. So I will go on a limb and say it was usually a racist act. It's just a bit picky to pick apart, if you get my point. So, a little off topic. And yes, it is, because white people can't experience racism. They aren't oppressed, so fuck off with that. White people can't experience racism too. Bullshit. Because they can't. Cracker or donkey shouldn't offend you. Then I guess I could make the point. I don't want to say this, because I know I'm going to get shit for this one. If that's the case, if cracker and donkey shouldn't be offensive, or cousin fucker, or any other slur, I guess I can make the point that nigger and monkey shouldn't be offensive. We're playing the same game here. We're playing the same fucking rules here. I'm just switching up the slurs and switching the race. See, I'm switching the race, switching the slurs, and notice how you're singing a whole different song and tune. Oh, well, the history, yada yada yada. You clearly listed out you can be racist to white people with stuff like cracker, donkey, or when I throw in myself cousin fucker. That's more pointed at rednecks, though. With those three, you've clearly pointed out you can be racist towards a white person, but then proceed to say, oh, well, you shouldn't be offended by those things. You shouldn't view those things as racist. But as soon as somebody switches around the race and says, oh, well, what if I call a black person nigger, or call a black person monkey? Then you're like, okay, well, that's racist, and blah, 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 yeah. See my point here? You just want a reason to hate a specific race of people. And there's no really reason that makes sense. You can't use the slavery argument because, you don't know if my ancestors were slave owners. You don't know that. You can't say, oh, well, white people and slaves, because not everyone did. A large majority of white people in America were poor and didn't have money to afford slaves. Because, believe it or not, they were in thousands to buy just one. So, yeah, a large majority of white people didn't actually own them. It was more the rich people. We're talking politicians and all that. So, you can't make the argument that white people enslaved because it wasn't as many as you think. You can't make that. And even if my ancestors did, those were my ancestors, not me. Do you see me whipping a black person? Do you see me calling black people the N-word on the street every day? Of course not. Because just because people before you did it doesn't mean you have to do it. That's what I go by. And guess fucking what? You can't use the segregation argument either because, newsflash, a lot of white people didn't decide to do that. And that's a more complicated issue, buddy. There's no physical argument that makes sense for why you would hate a whole race of people. Just because one race was racist doesn't mean you be racist back. Two wrongs don't make it right. Alright? Like, if I were to experience racism by, let's say, I have a lot of Hispanic people that I interact with. Let's say a bunch of those Hispanic people were to be racist to me. That doesn't give me the right to just throw racist stuff at them back. That doesn't give me the right to hate every Hispanic person I run into. That's not a logical response. You should still respect everyone regardless of the race. Just because a bunch of them were racist to you doesn't mean you have to be racist to everyone. You stop racism. We stop racism by stopping to do it. We stop racism by referring to people as race and just see people as people. If you want to stop racism, stop calling, just be normal. View people as people. And more importantly, if somebody's racist to you, don't be racist back. Don't be racist back to them or anyone else. That's another way you stop it. But that's a little bit off topic. Going back to my main point. You totally can be racist to white people, though. Everyone has a way of experiencing racism, and you've clearly listed that out. And then you try to say, oh, well, white people have been killed for the color of their skin, which they probably fucking have. And if you want to debate me on that, well, police get shot for being police. Every fucking year, when your Black Lives Matter thing starts up, you start going out and fucking killing police. Now, I'm not saying all Black Lives Matter people do that. Don't fucking put words in my mouth. What I am saying is that when this shit starts up, some fucking genius decides, hey, let me just shoot a fucking cop. Maybe not all the time, but it happens a lot. Because you guys want to paint cops in this bad fucking image, and I don't want to start getting onto that one, because fuck's sake, that makes me mad. And, again, you keep going on about how they can't experience racism or police brutality. Racism one, what the fuck ever. The police brutality one, again, it's like, that isn't a racism thing. Police brutality can affect everyone. It isn't, you don't, fuck's sake. Police brutality, have you even looked at the definition of that? That literally can affect everyone. Because police brutality is literally where an innocent person just gets killed by a police officer. That's it. It has nothing to do with racism always. Police brutality can happen in multiple ways. It isn't just if the cop does something racist. It isn't just because, oh, the cop killed a black guy, police brutality. No, it should. It's literally just when a cop kills an innocent person. That's fucking it. So yeah, that can affect everyone. It's the same thing with racism, because the definition is never excluded anybody. It doesn't. Doesn't have to eat. Racism doesn't have to have oppression with it. Racism can just be calling somebody a racist word. It shouldn't have to have oppression thrown into that. And you clearly know that. If I were to go up to somebody and call them a stupid nigger, that's racist. You follow me? Have I oppressed that individual? No. I clearly have not oppressed that individual, because they can debate me back on that one. They can call me a racist word back. They can punch me in the face. They can do multiple things to respond, because that individual was not oppressed by what I did. That individual can still do things back. It's clear. I mean, just look at any time somebody says nigger. You see just any white person says it, they get killed for it. If racism were to equal oppression, then those people wouldn't be able to do that, because they would have been oppressed. I feel like I shouldn't have to make this point. I feel like it should just be clear as fucking day that racism doesn't equal oppression, because you guys prove that every day by calling out individuals for saying the N-word. Because that isn't oppression when you do that. Saying a word doesn't oppress anyone. I know that's crazy for me to even consider that. So, and then my friend Overdose lists out a time where a white person was killed for being white. Let's read. A black dude earlier this year killed a toddler in his lawn, and it was said to be racially motivated, especially after he said he didn't like white people. Ooh, is that interesting? Really? He killed a white toddler, and it turns out he doesn't like white people. I wonder, did he kill the toddler because he was white? Really wonder, man. No, he must have had a reason that had nothing to do with his skin color, right? So yeah, you starting to see my point here? And then she was like, I asked for white people. What's a white toddler sound? Then, I got into an argument with this person, and they tried to lie and say that they never said, white people can't be you can't be racist to white people. She literally tried to lie and say, no, I never said that. When, my screenshots say otherwise, Taffy, they're all right here. And it's all just you saying white people can't experience racism or police brutality. So you really want to lie? Then goes into a racist tangent about white people and how white people don't have culture. Really? What about... Oh, okay. What about the Irish? What about the Germans? What about the British? What about the Scottish? Really? White people don't have culture? Everyone has fucking culture, you dumbass. And no, they didn't steal it, because because they didn't steal it. What are you talking about? Sure, maybe you can make the argument that maybe Americans stole some culture, but not really. I mean, Native Americans still have their culture, Black people still have their culture. You know, all these people have their culture, and then there's there's those white people that have their culture that was never stolen. You want to tell me Irish culture was stolen? Or Scottish culture? Or German culture? Or British culture? You want to tell me that was stolen? Because I can tell you it wasn't. Because those types of cultures have been around forever. But no, go on. Please tell me in your little racist tangent about how white people don't have culture and how you don't hate white people. Yeah, you totally don't. And, if you call her racist, and she's like, oh, yeah, I'm not racist because I'm white. Have you heard of self-racism? That, I know this might be a shocking, mind-blowing thing for you, but there's a little thing called self-racism. And you would fall within that category perfectly. Just because you're white and say something racist about white people does not mean you are racist. It's just meaning you have self-hatred. That's what it means. You have self-hatred. I know. How could I ever come to such a conclusion? Don't know. Alright, I'm done here. I've made my point. Taffy's a fucking retarded liptard. Anyway, thanks for watching. I am so sorry this got political. I will now go back to taking 20 years to make a video. Bye, guys.